purification. All the evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and folly, born of my body, mouth, and thought, I now confess and purify them all.
Rinzai Roku Jishou Teaching the Assembly, Chapter 21, continued. Virtuous monks, right now this mountain monk has no choice but to make such unworthy statements. But you monks, don't be mistaken. According to my view, there really isn't any complication. If you want to act, just act. If you don't want to act, just don't. There are people who say to practice the 6 parameters and the 10,000 virtuous deeds of Buddha Dharma. I would say that there are many, these are mere gates of adornment, gate of Buddha ritual. They are not Buddha Dharma itself. Even those who keep all kinds of regulations concerning food and uphold all precepts, or those who try to act like someone carrying a bowl of oil without spilling even a drop, unless their Dharma eyes is open, they will have to repay their debts. The day surely will come for them to pay for the food they have eaten. Why is this so? Whoever enters the way without penetrating the essence will have to return the offerings they have received. When the rich man becomes 81 years old, the tree will no longer produce mushrooms. Let me tell you that those who live alone on a solitary peak, or who eat once a day, or sit for a long time without lying down, or worshipping with circumambulations through the 6th period. All these are nothing but creating karma. Also, if someone donates his head, eyes, marrow, and brain, or his castle, wife, and child, his elephant, horses, and his seven treasures, these actions inviting the suffering of body and mind and end up in sorrow. Better to do nothing, to be plain and simple. Then even the bodhisattvas who accomplished the 10 stages of practice all search for the trace of this followers of the way, but can never find it. Therefore, it is said that all heavenly deities are filled with joy. Earthly deities raise their feet in adoration, and of all the Buddhas in the 10 directions, there are none who do not praise him. Why? Because the person of the way who is listening to my talk right now leaves no trace of his being. はい。They can extinguish the candle.
はい。
Master Rinzai still is talking to his students. His pagoda is not so far away from Beijing. His temple was, it is said, rather modest, but because of his unique teaching, the monasteries was filled with the followers of the way. He had no idea that over 1,000 years later, whatever he said was translated into Western language, and people in the West do zazen and listen. He had no idea. But the content of his extemporaneous Teisho was what is new, fresh, and will be keeping its freshness centuries, ten centuries, simply because it is so true. Truth has a longevity. So, virtuous monks, that is you, virtuous monks. Right now, this mountain monk Rinzai has no choice but to make such unworthy statements. He was modest, saying unworthy, but for us, it is worthy statements. But you monks, don't be mistaken. According to my view, according to my understanding, there really isn't any complication. If you want to act, just act. If you don't want to act, just don't. Many of you know the name of Paul Reps. He was a poet. He was the first Zen student of Nyogen Senzaki. As a combined effort between Nyogen Senzaki and Paul Reps, Zen Fresh, Zen Born became one of the most popular Zen books in 1960s. This Paul Reps was also a good friend of Soen Roshi, and whenever, unlike nowadays, the foreigners to come to the Zen monasteries around the time I was there, so that's 1950s. It's very rare. So Soen Roshi took them out. And one day, he and Paul Reps went to Tokyo. And they went to some temple where there were sayings in Chinese. So naturally, Paul Reps asked Soen Roshi, what does it mean? Soen Roshi extemporaneously translated and said with his strong Japanese accent, the first line goes, do not act, but to act. And Paul was so happy, great! Soen Roshi meant bad, B-A-D. So do not act bad act. Nowadays we translate refrain from all the evils. But Paul Reps hard B-U-T, do not act but to act. So evidently for a while he was confused why. So in his Teisho, he often mentioned about this. I'm sure you heard a few times, but in connection with this, when he was visiting Nyogen Senzaki in Los Angeles, so must be 1950, something like that. So he took a walk East 2nd Street, which is a bit far away from Little Tokyo. And there was a pond, still is, in the morning. Many birds were there. They're black birds. So there was a gentleman who too was walking morning walk. So Soen Roshi said, excuse me, what is the name of this bird? The gentleman said, blackbird. No, I am asking, what is the name of this bird? Blackbird. To say that itself, quite often there is miscommunication. Blackbird is blackbird, and cannot be otherwise. Near Ryutakuji, there is Mount Fuji. And one of my friends wanted to climb Mount Fuji. From the distance, Mount Fuji is so beautiful. And he has some stupid aspect, and about the middle of the beautiful Mount Fuji. He thought that the middle of Mount Fuji, closer he approached, the more beautiful he could see it. Then he said to his friend, "Where is Mount Fuji?" "This is it." "This is it, but I can't see it." "Because it is, this is it. You are standing on Mount Fuji." All these episodes speaks how near the truth is, yet we seek it far away, different names. Maybe as long as we are talking about apart from Rinzai Roku, but living Rinzai Roku. I was ordained by Reverend Kengan Goto. He was a really fine man. He taught me how to chant sutras. He taught me how to strike the instruments. He taught me how to strike the hoku drum. He taught me Daisegaki Jojin Yuryo Shichi Sanshi Shifu. And he taught me this and that and this, practically everything. So by the time I went to Heirinji, except Doksan Mata, he was not a Roshi, so he could not teach me. So by the time I went to Heirinji Monastery, that was before Ryutakuji. That's not the point of my talk today. So he had one son, two daughters. And on those days, unlike nowadays, the car is very rare. So bicycle, the road is bad. Evidently he had something to do in Tokyo, so he took one of his bicycles and asked me to take one of his daughters, who was perhaps 10 years or 11 years old. So we just, and evidently the time was very short. And when there is when we came to Fork Point, and this is a really key point, he said, Kipokatake! If it is you, you may stop, or some of you stop, excuse me, what did you say? Quite understandable question. Because, Kipokatake! But I said, when he scolded me, Kipokatake! Hai! And while I was riding bicycle, what does it mean? What did he mean? And I reached one of the stations, Chichibu Onohara station. And he arrived about 1 or 2 minutes later. And the first thing he asked me, Kipokata ka? I have no money. And on top of it, I did not understand what you said. But luckily, they were able to make it and went to Tokyo safely. But key point is this. Kipokatake! Hai! Excuse me, what did you say? I don't have money. May I have? So that I can buy your 2 tickets. These are important, but doesn't work. I save time. Hai! This is what Zen is. On those days, I did not know anything about Zen, but somehow, through his teaching method, cleaning, how to use zokin, the floor, I learned this. Not to waste a moment. So, according to my view, there really isn't any complication. If you want to act, just act. If you don't want to act, just don't. And the Master continues to speak. There are people who say to practice the 6 parameters and the 10,000 virtuous deeds is Buddha Dharma. I would say that these are mere gates of adornment, decoration. Gates of Buddhist ritual. They are not Buddha Dharma itself. Then what is the Buddha Dharma itself? Kipokatake! Hey! Rinzai Zen without that spirit is dead. That's why we after chanting Emme Juku Kannongyo, many times we shout. There's a haiku by Soen Roshi which goes this way. Emme Juku Kannongyo 100万遍唱えて人の世も涼し延命十句観音行100万遍唱えて人の世も涼し When you chant 延命十句観音行 1 million times the world which you live will be very cool. Not talking about the temperature as such. You often say in America something good, yeah, cool. That cool. Even those who keep all kinds of regulations concerning food and uphold all precepts, or those who try to act like someone carrying a bowl of oil without spilling even a drop, unless their Dharma eye is open, they will have to repay their debts. Okay? Some of us are officially ordained. Some of us are lay brothers and lay sisters, but we are all doing session, aiming for one purpose, that is to clarify who we really are. And strange enough and naturally enough, when we practice that kind of practice, like session or everyday zazen at home, always we receive various gift or various offerings. Somehow the things wanted to know to go to the place where practice is done. And I am sure each of you, as long as you continue your own practice, you receive so many things. Now, unless their dumb eyes is opened, they will have to repay their debts. The day surely will come for them to pay for the food they have eaten. Why is this so? Whoever enters the way without penetrating its essence will have to return the offerings they have received. When rich man becomes 81 years old, the trees will no longer produce mushrooms. And this is a story which appears in Chinese and Indian record. There was a rich man and his son. They were living in a beautiful house, and there was a tree. It has mushroom. They produce mushroom, and extremely delicious. Nobody could see it, but these two rich man and his son. So they're wondering why these two only are able to receive, appreciate. So, the Kanadaiba Sonja, which we read his name during Teidai Renpo chanting, came to visit them, and they asked the story. Mushroom, delicious. Only two of us can see, and for others, it's non-existence. And then Kanadaiba said, "How old are you?" He said, "I'm 79 years old." The Kanadaiba said, "Okay, 2 more years to go. You made many offerings to the monks and practitioners, generous deed, but that will be expired when you become 81 years old." This is the story, but implication is very clear. Then, next part is most important for today. Let me tell you that those who live alone on a solitary peak, or who eat once a day, or sit for a long time without lying down, or worship with circumambulation through the 6th period. All these are nothing but creating karma. In Yamanashi Prefecture in Japan, there's a peak called Daibosatsu Toge. When Soen Roshi was young, 25 years old, he did not know what to do and what is his direction for his life. And upon reading Western philosopher's book Schopenhauer, he somehow realized that the best way for him is to become a monk. And by Goen, this is the key point of Goen, karmic connection, he became a student of Katsube Keigaku Roshi and Kogakuji. And his temple, Kogakuji, is just below the Daibosatsu. The Kogakuji is a monastery and where many monks are practicing, but according to Soen Roshi, they are not doing real practice. Noisy, somehow their dedication is not enough. So he made a decision to do solitary retreat on top of Mount Daibosatsu. Those who live alone on the solitary peak, and even now there is a hut, H-U-T, and this is where he did solitary zazen before he met Genpo Roshi. Eating once a day, only vegetable, collecting, and not only vegetable, without cooking, wild herb, or sit for a long time without lying down, or worshipping with circumambulation through the 6 periods. Over there, the Mount Fuji, undoubtedly the best spot to appreciate the beauty of Mount Fuji is Daibosatsu Peak. So from morning till night, he was sitting with Mount Fuji and no other friend, and very simple life. While he was doing this kind of simple life, he wrote many haikus, and by chance it was published in a magazine, and that magazine went to Los Angeles. Mrs. Tanahashi, Jimmy's mother, saw it and gave it to her teacher, Nyogen Senzaki. And this is where this Daibosatsu mandala starts. What I wanted to tell you, which I perhaps never did before, he wrote long letter, really long letter. And in that letter, he made a circle and a few important, very important places in his life, like the place he was born, Iwakuni, or Tokyo, this is where he went to school, and about 10. And all of them I know, except one place. It said, Nakano Arai. When I saw that, I was really thrilled, shivered almost. Simply because this is where I was born. And it's not a particularly famous place in Tokyo. Now, putting that aside, I'll come back to this. Every February, I go to Japan. And there is sort of alumni, high school alumni. And they are about my age. Still 20 or 25 people gather. And then, 2 years ago, one lady said to me, I am doing the Ono, N-O-H, no dance, Kanzeryu no dance. Oh, like a kabuki or no, like an opera or Broadway musical is in the West. No, kabuki is a sort of typical Japanese performing arts. Anyway, she said to me, I have been doing this no. And so I asked, which school? Kanze. Kanzeryu. Oh, it's a good one. Then, where is your teacher's center? She said, Nakano Arai. And I was really shocked. And then she continued to say, my teachers who is still alive as of 2 years ago was a good friend of Rinzai Zen monk, Soen Nagagawa. And he had so many of Soen Roshi's calligraphy. Wow! Now the puzzle which I had, Nakano Arai. Why Nakano Arai? The place I was born. But now I know he went there to visit the Kanze school of Ono. So next year, I already made arrangement to visit that no school and to appreciate Soen Roshi's calligraphies and Daibosatsu mandala started with top of the Taibosatsu mountain and spreading in this way, as you can see. And one last question I had will be most likely will be solved. And the person who is doing still is doing this no practice is my schoolmate. Isn't that something? It's really something. It seems that we know each other fairly well, quite well. But this Dharma connection story, somehow the Jushin was telling me, I asked her, how did you find your teacher? Doshin is his name. And she said, there was some kind of gathering of all meditation teachers, and she went. And somehow she saw him, and he saw her, not knowing anything, background, name, nothing. And then, without introducing, without shaking hand, she started to laugh. And couldn't stop it. And then, later she became, to make it a long story short, a student of him, and got a Dharma name called Ryushin, and found out that Doshin was the student of Junpo. And through Junpo, she now knew that there's this kind of circle. It's already made. This is called En in Japanese. And maybe in English, Dharma connection or Dharma it's not a coincidence. It's certainly not a coincidence. So because of this Dharma Goen, Dharma En, we are here. Like Nennen Jushinki, Nennen Furishin. Nen cannot be translated, so it became a universal word. Like sushi is another thing. Japanese food, raw fish. If you explain that way, appetite is gone. Even in Europe, so many sushi places. So, some certain word cannot be translated. Well, why not? Why, like tsunami is another thing. Oh, what's wrong to use tsunami as tsunami? Sushi as sushi, zen as zen, nen as nen, en as en. So anyway, let me read this part once more. Let me tell you that those who live alone on a solitary peak or who eat once a day, or sit for a long time without lying down, or worshiping with circumambulations through the 6 periods, all these are nothing but creating karma. This is N. So rest is not so important. So today's Teisho is over. And tomorrow I will continue, but the 4th day's text will be used. No, anyway, I'll talk to Ekyo later. It's a mysterious. This is really a mysterious world.